I said, "Take your hands off me." I heard Emily before I saw her. Her voice cut through the low growl of my pickup as I rounded the last curve toward our house, sharp enough to make my foot come off the accelerator. Then the wrought iron gate appeared through the trees, and everything inside me went quiet. 2 Briarwood security guards had my wife held against the gate, while Vanessa Caldwell stood 10 feet away with a clipboard tucked against her coat. A contractor van blocked half the driveway. Another man was kneeling beside the gate control box with an open tool case on the pavement. I stopped about 40 feet back. Hot brakes and warm engine oil drifted through the open window. Somewhere near the stone entrance pillar, a security radio crackled. I looked at the dashboard clock. 5:17 in the afternoon. I remember that because training teaches you something adrenaline never does. Notice first, act second. I put the truck in park and stepped out slowly. Let her go. One guard turned toward me. He was broad through the shoulders, maybe late 30s, with Briarwood security printed across his jacket. His hand stayed on Emily's arms. "Sir, remain by your vehicle." Emily looked at me. Her face was pale with anger, but she was steady. "Dan, they are trying to replace the gate controller." Vanessa raised one hand, as though she were chairing another HOA meeting. "Your wife interfered with authorized association work." I looked past her. Camera above the gate. Contractor van. Open control box. Security supervisor wearing what looked like a body camera. Across the street, our neighbor's doorbell camera faced almost directly toward us. Good. I kept my hands where everyone could see them. "Emily, are you hurt?" "No. I want them to release me." "You heard her," I said. The second guard shifted his feet. Vanessa stepped closer. "This access point is under HOA control now." She refused a lawful instruction. "Then show me the document giving Briarwood control of this parcel." Vanessa's mouth tightened. "You can discuss that with the board." "I will, after they let go of my wife." The supervisor finally released one arm, but the other guard hesitated until Emily repeated, "Do not touch me." Then both stepped back. Emily moved toward me without running. I met her halfway and stopped there. I did not approach the guards. I did not approach Vanessa. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "What are you doing?" Vanessa asked. "Preserving what is happening." The supervisor gave a short laugh. "What are you supposed to be, some kind of tough guy?" I looked at him for a second. 12 years in the teams had taught me plenty about fear, pressure, and men who confused aggression with control. It had also taught me that the fastest way to lose command of a situation was to let somebody else choose your emotions for you. "No," I said. "I am the homeowner." Vanessa smiled as if that answer made me smaller. She had no idea how much I preferred it that way. 3 days earlier, this had been a dispute over a gate remote and a piece of paper Emily refused to sign. Now there were guards, cameras, a contractor, and my wife standing beside me with red marks on the sleeve of her jacket where hands had gripped the fabric. Vanessa thought bringing security had given her control. What she did not know was that she had just turned a neighborhood argument into something with witnesses, timestamps, recordings, and a chain of decisions that could be reconstructed minute by minute. And if there was one thing my old life had taught me, it was how to reconstruct exactly what happened after everybody else started changing their story. 72 hours earlier, the gate had been nothing more than the place where I slowed down every evening and pressed a gray remote clipped to my sun visor. Emily and I had lived on the western edge of Briarwood Estates for almost 6 years, in a cedar-sided house sitting on 3.5 acres where the subdivision pavement gave way to old oak trees and a narrow private drive. I was 44 by then, 12 years removed from the Navy, and perfectly happy being known as the guy who repaired boat engines, helped neighbors back trailers into tight driveways, and occasionally disappeared for a few days to consult on marine security projects. Most people in Briarwood knew I had served. Almost nobody knew where. I preferred it that way. My old challenge coin stayed in the top drawer of my desk beside expired identification cards and photographs I rarely looked at. The life I cared about was outside that drawer. Emily was 41 and worked as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation clinic about 20 minutes away. She had more patience than I did, which was saying something, and she knew nearly every dog, child, and retired couple on our end of the neighborhood. The secondary gate stood about 60 yards from our front porch, between 2 stone pillars built years before Briarwood expanded toward us. The gate looked like part of the subdivision entrance system, but appearances were misleading. The narrow strip beneath it belonged to our parcel, something the deed and survey made clear. Previous owners had granted limited passage under specific conditions, but the gate equipment and surrounding land had never simply become HOA property. I knew that because I had checked before buying the house. A brass survey marker sat near the southern pillar, half hidden beneath ornamental grass, and every spring I cleared around it when I trimmed the fence line. 3 days before I found Emily at the gate, Vanessa Caldwell knocked on our door carrying a blue folder. She was 53, always polished, always smiling, and had been Briarwood's HOA president for nearly 4 years. Emily invited her into the kitchen while I poured coffee. Vanessa placed a document between us. "This is temporary," she said. Briarwood was renovating its clubhouse and beginning drainage work near the main entrance. According to Vanessa, controlling our secondary gate would reduce construction traffic through the center of the neighborhood. She wanted both of our remotes and permission for the HOA to replace the controller for 90 days. Emily read the first page, then the second. "This does not say 90 days. Vanessa's smile tightened slightly. The agreement granted the association operational control of the access point and authorized contractors selected by the board to modify equipment as necessary. There was no clear expiration date. "That is standard language," Vanessa said. Then adding in, "Expiration date should be easy," I replied. She looked at me as if I had interrupted something. "The board has already approved the project." "The board can approve its project," Emily said. "We are not signing this version." Vanessa gathered the papers slowly. Before leaving, she stopped beside the gate and stared at the control box for several seconds. I noticed because I noticed things like that. That evening I photographed the brass boundary marker, scanned our deed and survey, and checked the timestamp on the gate camera. Emily watched me from the kitchen doorway. "You think she is coming back?" she asked. I clipped the gray remote onto my sun visor. I think she already decided the answer before she asked us the question. Vanessa did come back, but not to our front door. The next morning, Emily found a white envelope taped to the gate control box before she left for the clinic. Inside was a Briarwood violation notice claiming we were obstructing an approved community access improvement. The fine was $75, with another $25 added for every day of noncompliance. Emily carried it into the kitchen and laid it beside my coffee. That was fast. I read the notice twice, especially for something we were supposedly asked to approve yesterday. At 8:10, I photographed the envelope exactly where Emily had found it, then scanned the notice and saved the original with the unsigned agreement. By lunchtime, a second email arrived from Vanessa stating that our refusal to surrender the gate remotes created a safety concern during construction. I answered with one sentence asking her to identify the section of our deed or Briarwood governing documents giving the association authority to replace equipment located on our parcel. She did not answer the question. Instead, she sent a paragraph about community cooperation. That afternoon, Emily called me from work. "There is a security vehicle sitting near our gate." I checked the camera from my phone. A dark gray sport utility vehicle was parked on the Briarwood side of the entrance. 2 men in private security uniforms stood beside it talking to Vanessa. One of them photographed the control box. The other walked toward the southern pillar and stopped within a few feet of the brass survey marker. Neither crossed onto our driveway. Not yet. I saved the footage. That evening, Emily and I spread the deed, survey, HOA covenants, and Vanessa's agreement across the dining table. Rain tapped against the windows while the gate camera played silently on my laptop. "Why does she need this gate so badly?" Emily asked. I had been wondering the same thing. The clubhouse explanation did not fit the pressure. I opened Briarwood's latest board packet, which had been emailed to homeowners the previous week. Buried beneath landscaping expenses and pool maintenance was a map showing construction staging near the main entrance. Heavy vehicles would have to take a long route around occupied streets unless the secondary gate became available. Our driveway offered the shortest connection to the county road. "There," I said. Emily leaned closer. "Construction access. And probably more than 90 days. The next morning, Vanessa sent another notice. This one said private security personnel would begin monitoring the secondary entrance immediately under a board-approved community safety plan. By noon, a Briarwood security vehicle was back. At 2:40, I received a call from a client whose boat security system had failed at a marina 30 miles away. Before leaving, I checked every camera, photographed the gate controller again, and handed Emily the spare remote. If anyone shows up, do not argue with them. She gave me a look. I can handle Vanessa. I know. I mean, do not let her turn this into something it is not. Stay on our side. Record everything. Call me. I drove away shortly after 3. At 4:36, the gate camera sent a motion alert to my phone. I was under a marina console with both hands occupied, so I did not see it. A contractor van had pulled beside our gate. Vanessa's white sport utility vehicle arrived 4 minutes later. Then the private security vehicle. By the time I finally checked my phone, Emily had already walked outside to ask why a contractor was opening a control box attached to property we owned. Emily later told me that contractor already had the metal cover open when she reached the gate. His tool case sat on the pavement beside the southern pillar, and a bundle of wires hung beneath the controller while Vanessa watched from beside her white sport utility vehicle. The 2 private security guards stood near their gray vehicle, one of them the broad-shouldered supervisor I would meet less than an hour later. Emily stopped several feet from the contractor. Please close that box. You do not have permission to modify our equipment. The contractor looked toward Vanessa instead of answering. Vanessa walked forward with her clipboard. The board authorized the upgrade this morning. The board does not own this parcel, Emily said. Dan already asked you to provide the document saying otherwise. Vanessa's expression hardened. You are interfering with scheduled association work. Emily pulled out her phone. Then I am recording scheduled association work. That changed the mood. The supervisor stepped closer and identified himself as Travis Cole. He told Emily she needed to leave the work area. She pointed toward the brass survey marker near the ornamental grass. I am standing on my property. Travis glanced at Vanessa. That glance mattered. It lasted less than a second, but the gate camera caught it. Vanessa gave a small nod. Remove her from the immediate work zone. Emily stepped backward toward our driveway. Do not touch me. I am leaving the area. The contractor stopped working and stood up. Brent Lawson, the second guard, moved around the open control box while Travis approached from the other side. Emily kept backing away, phone raised, repeating that she did not consent to being touched. She had already cleared the contractor by several feet when Travis reached for her arm. Brent took the other side. They guided her back against the wrought iron gate and held her there while Vanessa told the contractor to continue. There was no struggle, no shouting from Emily. Only the same sentence delivered more firmly each time. Let go of me. At 4:48, my phone finally vibrated against the marina floor beside my shoulder. I slid out from beneath the console and saw 6 missed motion alerts, then Emily's name. I called immediately. She answered on the first ring. Behind her voice, I heard a security radio and Vanessa talking. They are changing the controller, Emily said. Security is here. Are you inside our property line? Yes. Are they touching you? There was a pause. Not yet. That word got me moving. I told the marina manager I had a family emergency, packed my tools, and headed for the truck. The drive home normally took 35 minutes. I did not turn it into 20. Speeding would not help Emily if I ended up stopped on the shoulder or caused an accident. I called the local non-emergency dispatch line hands-free, explained that private security personnel were involved in a property dispute at my home, and requested an officer. Then I called Emily again. No answer. At 5:11, the gate camera refreshed on my dashboard-mounted phone. The image froze for half a second, then sharpened. Contractor van. Vanessa. 2 uniforms. Emily near the gate. I could not tell exactly what was happening from the small screen, so I stopped looking and kept my eyes on the road. 6 minutes later, I turned onto our street. The contractor van came into view first, then Vanessa's white vehicle. Then Emily's voice carried through my open window. I said, "Take your hands off me." And suddenly, every photograph, every notice, every unanswered question about that gate had led to the same place. 5:17 in the afternoon, with cameras recording from 3 different directions, and Vanessa still believing she was the person in control. The first patrol car arrived before Vanessa could decide whether she wanted to keep arguing with me. I heard tires roll across the pavement at 5:23, followed by the soft click of a door opening behind my truck. By then, Emily was standing beside me. The contractor had stepped away from the control box, and Travis Cole had moved back toward the security vehicle. I kept my phone recording. An officer walked toward us with one hand resting near his radio, his expression calm and unreadable. Who called? I did, I said. Vanessa answered at almost the same time. This is an HOA matter. The officer looked between us. Then I will hear from everyone separately. That was exactly what I wanted. Emily spoke first while I stayed several yards away. She explained the unsigned access agreement, the contractor opening the controller, her request that the work stop, and the guards holding her after she had already moved away from the equipment. Vanessa told a different version. According to her, Emily had disrupted authorized maintenance, and security had merely escorted her from a restricted work area. Travis nodded along until the officer asked one simple question. Where is the restricted work area located? Nobody answered immediately. I walked to my truck, retrieved the copy of our survey I kept behind the passenger seat, and handed it over. The brass marker is beside the southern pillar. Our deed matches this boundary. Vanessa shook her head. The association has access rights. Do you have that documentation? The officer asked. Our attorney can provide it. The officer studied the survey, then looked toward the open controller. A second patrol vehicle arrived. The officer who stepped out was older, maybe early 50s. He looked at Emily, then at me, and stopped for half a second. Mercer. I recognized him from a veterans fundraiser the previous summer. Officer Hayes. He walked closer and gave me a puzzled smile. Chief Mercer, right? Travis heard it. So did Vanessa. Her eyes moved from Hayes to me. Chief, she asked. I could almost see her recalculating the scene. Hayes answered before I did. We met through a veterans charity. Vanessa stared at me. What exactly did you do in the Navy? I looked at Emily first. She was rubbing the sleeve of her jacket where Travis had held it, but otherwise she seemed steady. I served with the SEAL teams, I said. Travis's expression changed instantly. The confidence drained out of his face, replaced by something much more cautious. Vanessa took a small step backward. That was the moment the entire confrontation could have become the story she later wanted to tell about me. Angry former Navy SEAL intimidates HOA personnel. Dangerous veteran threatens security guards. I had seen narratives built from less, so I gave her nothing. That does not make me a police officer, I said. It does not give me authority over anyone standing here. I am Emily's husband and one of the property owners. That is enough. Hayes gave the smallest nod. Then he asked Travis whether his uniform had a body camera. Travis looked down at his chest. A tiny green light was still blinking. Yes. Good. Preserve the recording. I looked toward the gate camera above the stone pillar, then across the street toward our neighbor's doorbell camera. 3 angles. 3 clocks. 3 versions of the afternoon that did not depend on anyone's memory. Vanessa had just learned what I used to do for a living. She thought that was the dangerous part. It was not. The dangerous part for her was that I had no intention of making this about who I used to be. By 8:30 that night, our dining room table looked less like a place for dinner and more like the beginning of an investigation. Emily sat across from me with a mug of tea cooling beside her while I copied every original video file onto 2 separate drives. We did not edit anything. We did not crop anything. I wrote down the timestamps exactly as they appeared. Contractor van at 4:36. Vanessa at 4:40, security vehicle 3 minutes later, Emily walking toward the gate at 4:47, and my pickup arriving at 5:17. Emily wrote her account while the details were still fresh. I told her not to make it dramatic. Just write what happened in order. She looked at me over the top of her glasses. You realize that is what I am doing. I know. Then stop briefing me like I am on your team. I almost smiled. You are on my team. The next morning, I called Rachel Bennett, a civil attorney who had handled a property dispute for one of my consulting clients. By 10, she had our deed, survey, Briarwood covenants, Vanessa's unsigned agreement, both violation notices, photographs of the brass marker, and copies of the gate footage. Rachel called back shortly after lunch. Do not communicate with Vanessa except in writing, she said. And I want the security footage preserved immediately. She sent preservation notices to Briarwood, the contractor, and the private security company requesting that relevant body camera recordings, dispatch logs, emails, work orders, and incident reports be retained. Then she found something I had missed. The security contract attached to Briarwood's board records described the guard's normal patrol authority as covering association common areas and specifically designated community property. Our gate strip was not listed. Rachel tapped the clause with her pen when Emily and I met her that afternoon. This does not decide every legal question, she said, but it matters. That night, I covered one garage wall with removable notes. Not because I wanted to play soldier again, but because organizing complicated events was something my brain understood. Time, person, action, evidence. I synchronized the gate camera with my phone recording and our neighbor Carol Jennings's doorbell footage. Carol had already volunteered the file after seeing Emily at the gate. The angles were different, but the sequence matched. Then Rachel forwarded an email obtained from Briarwood's property manager after her preservation request. It had been sent by Vanessa the morning of the incident. The subject concerned secondary access preparation. One sentence stopped me cold. Vanessa had written that the contractor should establish operational control of the gate before I returned from my Marino appointment, because further delay would allow the Mercers to obstruct implementation. Emily read it twice. She knew you were gone. I nodded. More importantly, the email showed Vanessa was pushing ahead while our ownership objection remained unresolved. I printed it and placed it at the center of the timeline. The next afternoon, another message arrived, this one from Briarwood residents. Vanessa had called an emergency HOA meeting for Friday night. The stated purpose was community security and homeowner conduct. My name was not written anywhere in the notice. It did not need to be. Emily stood beside the garage wall, looking at the timestamps, documents, and photographs arranged in a straight line. She is going to make this about you being a former SEAL. Probably. What are you going to do? I looked at Vanessa's email one more time. Make it about 5:17, the property line, and what her own cameras recorded. By Friday afternoon, Vanessa had already started telling people that I was the problem. She never called me dangerous in writing. She was smarter than that. Instead, she used words like intimidating, confrontational, and military demeanor, carefully building a picture of a man who had come home looking for a fight. The problem was that Briarwood was a neighborhood, not a courtroom, and neighbors had memories. Carol Jennings remembered me replacing the battery in her car during a freezing January morning. Mike Reynolds remembered Emily spending weeks helping his wife walk normally again after knee surgery. A retired Marine named Frank Dalton remembered working beside me at a veterans charity event where we spent 9 hours repairing a disabled veteran's house and exactly 0 minutes discussing what either of us had done in uniform. By 6:30, the Briarwood clubhouse parking lot was nearly full. Emily and I arrived together. Rachel Bennett met us near the entrance carrying one slim legal folder. I carried nothing except my phone. Inside, folding chairs had been arranged in rows facing a long table where Vanessa sat between 3 board members and the property manager. Travis Cole was not there. Neither was Brent Lawson. Their security company had assigned different personnel to the meeting, and those guards remained near the doors without approaching us. What Vanessa had not expected was the number of residents already seated behind Emily and me. Carol was there. Mike was there. Frank sat near the aisle wearing a plain blue jacket. Several homeowners I barely knew had brought copies of violation notices and correspondence from Vanessa involving fences, parking disputes, landscaping, and access rules. Nobody had come to threaten anyone. They had come because one dispute had made them curious about their own. Vanessa opened the meeting by talking about safety. Then she talked about respect for HOA personnel. Then, without saying my name at first, she referred to a recent incident involving a homeowner with specialized military experience, whose presence had created unnecessary tension during authorized work. I felt Emily shift beside me. Rachel did not move. Vanessa continued. Our security contractors must be able to perform their duties without intimidation. That was when Frank raised his hand. What intimidation? Vanessa blinked. Excuse me. What did he actually do? The room became very quiet. Vanessa looked toward the property manager. There are ongoing matters we cannot discuss in detail. Carol spoke from 2 rows behind us. I gave my doorbell recording to the attorney. Dan stood in his driveway. Another homeowner asked whether the board had verified ownership of the gate parcel before sending the contractor. Then someone asked who authorized the guards to operate there. Vanessa tried to redirect the discussion toward community safety, but each answer created another question. Rachel finally stood. My clients are not asking this board to accept their version of events. She placed her folder on the table. They are asking the board to preserve and review the evidence. Vanessa folded her arms. We have our own documentation. Excellent, Rachel said. Then everyone should want the same thing. She listed the gate camera, Carol's doorbell recording, the security body camera, the contractor work order, the property survey, the security contract, and Vanessa's email from the morning of the incident. That last item changed Vanessa's face. Only slightly, but I saw it. So did Emily. Vanessa looked directly at me for the first time that evening. She had spent 2 days trying to turn my past into the most important fact in the room. But my past was not sitting on that table. Her email was. Her instructions were. Her cameras were. And as the board secretary connected a laptop to the clubhouse screen, I realized Vanessa was about to discover the difference between controlling a story and controlling the evidence. The clubhouse screen came alive at 6:52, and the first thing everyone saw was Emily standing alone beside our gate. The timestamp sat in the lower corner. 4:47 in the afternoon. No shouting. No confrontation. Just Emily holding her phone, while the contractor worked beside the open control box. Rachel did not narrate the footage. She did not need to. Vanessa watched from the board table as Emily pointed toward the brass survey marker, stepped backward, and clearly moved away from the contractor. Then Travis and Brent approached her. The room went completely silent when Emily's recorded voice came through the speakers. "I am leaving the area. Do not touch me." A few seconds later came Vanessa's voice telling security to remove her from the immediate work zone. Emily was already moving away. The board secretary paused the recording. One board member leaned toward Vanessa. "You told us she refused to leave." Vanessa straightened in her chair. "That angle does not show everything." Rachel nodded. "I agree." She asked for the second recording. Carol's doorbell footage appeared next. Wider angle. Same sequence. Same timestamp. Emily backing toward our driveway. The contractor standing near the controller. Travis and Brent closing the distance. Then the third source appeared, footage preserved by the security company from Travis's body camera. I heard someone behind me whisper, "Oh, wow." From Travis's perspective, there was no confusion about what Emily had said. She told them she was leaving. She told them the property belonged to us. She asked them not to touch her. Then came Vanessa's instruction from several feet away. The board secretary stopped the video. Vanessa's face had gone pale. "This was a security decision," she said. That defense lasted less than a minute. A representative from the private security company stood near the back of the room. He explained that their internal review was still underway, but Travis and Brent had been removed from Briarwood assignments pending that review. He also confirmed that the contract normally limited their work to designated association property unless another lawful authorization applied. Rachel placed our survey on the screen. The brass marker visible in every recording matched the parcel boundary. Then came the contractor work order. Then Vanessa's email. The sentence appeared enlarged behind her. "Establish operational control before Mercer returns." Vanessa looked at the property manager. "That is being taken out of context." "Then provide the context," one board member said. She started explaining construction delays, neighborhood safety, and board authority. The HOA attorney, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. He said a board resolution could authorize association operations, but it could not by itself create property rights that were absent from the governing documents or deed. That sentence ended the argument. Nobody cheered. Nobody needed to. The board moved into an emergency discussion while Emily and I waited in the hallway with Rachel. 23 minutes later, they called everyone back. Vanessa was removed as president pending a formal review. The gate project was suspended immediately. All fines issued to us over the access dispute were withdrawn. The association would not modify the controller unless ownership and access rights were resolved through proper written agreement. Vanessa gathered her blue folder without looking at us. I had imagined that moment differently during the week. I thought I might feel satisfaction watching her lose the authority she had used so carelessly. Instead, I mostly felt tired. Emily slipped her hand into mine. Across the room, the screen still showed the frozen image of our gate at 4:47. Vanessa had spent days trying to make my military past the reason people should fear me. In the end, the only thing that mattered was what happened before I ever came home. 3 weeks later, I came home at almost the same time of day, but the road felt completely different. The late afternoon sun stretched through the oak trees, turning the pavement gold, and there were no security vehicles waiting beside our driveway. No contractor van. No clipboard. No voices carrying across the yard. I slowed my pickup near the secondary entrance and pressed the same gray remote clipped to my sun visor. The gate opened with its familiar electric hum. Nothing dramatic happened, and that was exactly the point. Emily was standing near the mailbox with 2 grocery bags when I pulled through. She smiled and lifted one hand. I parked beside the house and walked back to help her. The HOA had completed its formal review the previous week. Vanessa resigned from the board before the remaining directors could vote on additional action. Briarwood hired a different security supervisor, revised its procedures for property disputes, and sent every homeowner a written clarification explaining that private security personnel could not determine disputed ownership rights on their own. The contractor never touched our controller again. Rachel negotiated a written agreement confirming the existing access arrangement and making it clear that any future modification required our consent. Even the $75 violation notice disappeared from our account as if it had never existed, although I kept the original in my files. Some things are worth remembering. Travis and Brent remained off the Briarwood assignment while their employer completed its internal review. Emily did not ask for revenge. She wanted accountability, clear boundaries, and assurance that another homeowner would not be treated the same way. She got all 3. That evening, after dinner, we walked down to the gate. The air smelled like cut grass and somebody's charcoal grill farther into the neighborhood. I brushed dirt away from the brass survey marker with the toe of my boot. Emily leaned against the stone pillar and looked up at the camera. "Funny," she said. "Vanessa installed half these cameras because she wanted more control." I looked at the small black lens above us. "Cameras do not care who ordered them installed." Emily laughed softly. "Did you ever want to handle it differently?" I knew what she meant. I thought about 517 that afternoon. About Travis telling me to stay by my truck. About Vanessa's expression when she learned where I had served. About the old version of me people seemed to imagine whenever they heard the words Navy SEAL. Then I thought about the 12 years that challenge coin in my desk drawer represented. People assumed the hardest lessons came from learning how to move faster, endure more, or confront danger without hesitation. They were wrong. The hardest lessons were about judgment, patience, knowing what mattered after the adrenaline disappeared. "No," I said. "Not differently." We walked back toward the house as the gate closed behind us. Upstairs, my old challenge coin was still sitting in the same drawer where it had been before Vanessa ever knocked on our door. I never carried it to the HOA meeting. I never needed to. Vanessa thought my past was the weapon she needed to warn everyone about. She never understood that the most useful thing I brought home from the teams was restraint. Anybody can make a bad situation louder. Training taught me something harder. Sometimes winning means refusing to.